Hey everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, back again with my favourite show of the week, Wrestlers of the Week, in which I look at all the wrestling from the past week of action around the world and decide arbitrarily who deserves more points than the other, and then we update the league table and everyone tells me that I'm wrong on Twitter. No, I'm joking. A lot of big support for this series and I'm really grateful and I'm really enjoying it as well, and there are a lot of honourable mentions to get through this week because I think it may have been one of the strongest weeks in Wrestlers of the Week history. It's only week 11, but this is probably one of the strongest ones. So let's get right into it with the honourable mentions and then we'll start at number 10. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Jay Lethal, who had a Ring of Honor World Championship match with Dalton Castle and didn't win, and he would have been on the list. I had him on the list earlier in the week and then other people knocked him down and eventually he was out of the list. And I just feel really bad because I think that Jay Lethal is truly one of the most underrated top tier wrestlers in the world, and I'm amazed that WWE have not picked him up yet. Hopefully it's not too late in his career to do so. I think he's younger than we all think. He just started very young and he seems to have been around for a long time. So Jay Lethal, hopefully you can get on Wrestlers of the Week soon. I think you're brilliant. A big shout out also to Cedric Alexander and Roderick Strong, who had a wonderful match on 205 Live. Cedric Alexander has won and will progress to that title match at WrestleMania. Over in New Japan, I want to give a shout out to Yoshihashi and Tetsuya Naito, two key performers in the ongoing New Japan Cup, who had wonderful matches, but again, it was a very strong week and they just didn't make the grade. And finally, some of the performers in the big WXW 16 Karat Gold tournament in Germany, which has been going on this past weekend. Bobby Guns and Mike Bailey had some great matches. Bad Bones and Walter as well were part of a wonderful main event match for the WXW Championship. So that's all of the honourable mentions out of the way. Let's waste no further time and let's talk about who is at number 10. Number 10 this week is the man who we've all been waiting for to arrive on the Wrestlers of the Week league table and hasn't quite managed to yet, but he has this week, and I am very excited indeed if you can't tell. It's the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. He gets 1 point only, but it's a start. And I think if SmackDown gets its booking together, AJ could soon be rocketing up that league, as we all thought he would at the start of the year. AJ, of course, was our hero and our champion, and we love him because he retained his title at Fastlane, which of course means that we're getting that dream match at WrestleMania 34, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Oh, so exciting. Also, AJ's role in the big six-pack challenge at Fastlane was very exciting indeed. He took a hell of a deep six from Baron Corbin, one hell of an attitude adjustment from John Cena, which demolished the announce table, and then towards the end of the match, when everyone had forgotten about him and he'd laid low for a while, he came in with, I think, the best phenomenal forearm I've ever seen, drilled Kevin Owens and retained the title, and Smarks everywhere rejoiced and bowed at his altar, his phenomenal altar, the phenomenal one. AJ, he's really good at wrestling. Really good. Number 9. Now, I mentioned the WXW 16 Karat Gold tournament. It is billed as the biggest wrestling tournament in all of Europe. It features some of the best wrestlers from around the world on the independent scene, and even one or two big names as well. Last year they had Cody Rhodes. This year they didn't have anyone of quite that level of star power, but they had some wonderful wrestlers, guys like Keith Lee, Chris Brooks, a very popular indie wrestler here in the UK, and a few other guys that I'm going to mention on this list. But first of all, I want to give 2 points to the man who won the tournament, Absolute Andy. What a funny little name, Absolute Andy. I should point out that Absolute Andy isn't a little cutie, as his name implies. He's a big, bald man, very scary indeed, but he's also a devious little heel, annoying, Absolute Andy, you absolute bastard. He won the tournament by cheating in every round to win, and eventually he defeated David Starr in the final match, and it was unpopular, I will say. I couldn't quite work out whether it was unpopular because a heel had won or whether it was unpopular because they disagreed with the booking. A very subtle but very key difference when you're looking at wrestling fans and their reactions to things. But regardless, I mean, there's no doubt in the fact that Absolute Andy absolutely wrestled an absolute load of matches and did really well in a lot of them and hit a big, his finisher appears to be some kind of F5 from the middle rope, down to the mat, which is very impressive indeed. So even though he wasn't the most popular man in the tournament, and even though I probably wouldn't have had him win myself, I've got to give him props. You won the tournament, Absolute Andy. Well done. 2 points to you. Number 8, another newcomer to the list, and a man who I really like, and I've met him, and he's very charming and very luscious locks of hair, really good looking. Whoa. Dalton Castle is in at number 8 because he successfully defended his Ring of Honor World Championship against Jay Lethal at the Ring of Honor 16th anniversary show. Dalton Castle, for those who don't know, watch the match by the way if you can, because it was really good, and Dalton Castle is solidifying himself as a very valid ROH champion. There were some questions over his reign because he kind of won it from Cody Rhodes at a weird time when it looked like Cody was going to keep the belt for a long time, and suddenly Castle got the big babyface win and everyone went, whoa, was that supposed to happen? Why have plans changed? What's going on? But since then, he's really solidified himself as a very viable Ring of Honor World Champion. And if you don't know who Dalton Castle is, he's one of the most entertaining gimmicks in the world of wrestling right now. He's a very flamboyant peacock. Literally, he's a peacock. He comes out with this big entrance contraption, like he'll pose in the ring, and these big wings will come out of his attire. It's really something. The other big thing about his gimmick, as well as this flamboyance, is his boys. His boys. I will explain the boys, don't worry. Dalton Castle's boys are an interchangeable set of managers slash valets slash stablemates slash they're very scantily clad men in feathers and little pants who help him by they don't really interfere in a heelish way because he's a babyface. They sort of fan him when he's tired, or in tag matches where they are actually allowed to be in the ring. If like someone gets on the top rope and looks to jump on him in one of the sillier promotions like PWG, they'll fan them and they'll not be able to jump because of the wind. It's better than I've made it sound, I swear. But Dalton Castle, welcome to the list. I'm sorry for not doing your gimmick service. Shout out to the boys. You're my boys. Well, you're Dalton Castle's boys. Number 7, a man I know personally, but a man who still doesn't follow me back on Twitter. I'm not bothered, I don't care. I don't care about it. I'm fine. David Starr, who was the runner-up in the WXW 16 karat gold tournament. Everyone wanted him to win desperately. David Starr is a journeyman in wrestling in that, not in a journeyman way in that he can't find his home. He's very deliberately a journeyman. He travels around the world wrestling in just about every promotion you can think of. But he's really found a little home for himself in WXW. The German fans absolutely love him, and you know, you can tell that he really loves wrestling there as well. He feeds off their energy. He's a cocky, arrogant sort of persona in the ring. But when it comes to being a babyface, as he is now in WXW, he can seem really quite heroic at times. And this was a heroic performance in the tournament. He defeated Keith Lee in an awesome semi-final match against a much bigger man. And then in the final against another bigger man, Absolute Andy, it was a really heartbreaking loss. And he looked devastated, and he sold it very well indeed. So even though he didn't win the tournament, I'm giving David Starr more points than I gave Absolute Andy, the winner of the tournament, because I think when we look back, we'll remember his performances in a better light. He was a very good, sympathetic babyface. Follow me back on Twitter, @JazzJobber. Number 6, Tomohiro Ishii. Sam can rejoice. His favouriteest boy in the world is now on Wrestlers of the Week. Tomohiro Ishii, as we all know, if you've watched New Japan, is, well, he's the Stone Pitbull. That is his ring-like nickname, and it's also very apt because he's small, like a pit bull, he's aggressive like a pit bull, and he's made of stone. He can't be hurt, and despite, you know, no selling a lot of stuff because he's so solid and compact, when he does sell, that means that in a kind of a Brock Lesnar way, you really pay attention. You're like, wow, Ishii is hurt. This must be a big deal. And he sells with remarkable consistency. He never forgets a limb or a certain place where he's been attacked, and he sells gradually throughout the match, getting more and more tired as it goes on. He's one of the best sellers in the wrestling world, and his offense is often brutal. There's chops, there's headbutts, there's strikes, there's big slams on much bigger men. He had a New Japan Cup match against Michael Elgin and almost died, but didn't manage to die, so I think that's deserving of some points. Escaping death's a pretty good thing. Elgin hit him with a big slam off the top rope. He landed on his neck, it like folded him up. It was pretty grisly to watch, but he carried on the match, man, and he lost in the end, but it was a really, really good match. One of the best New Japan Cup matches so far, and he is fully deserving of his place on the list. Loads of newcomers this week. It's tremendously exciting. Number 5, Big Mike, Michael Elgin. I don't want to dwell too much, but I feel like I have to mention it. On the controversy that has recently surrounded Michael Elgin, I'm not going to get into the details, but you know, some things have come to light and it makes him look like not a great guy. So I was in two minds whether to include him on the list, but I think I probably should, in fairness. Just looking at him as a wrestler and what he does in the ring, he had a really good pair of matches in the New Japan Cup. First one against Ishii, which I've just talked about, which he won to the surprise of many, including myself. I thought Ishii was going to go through, and then he lost in the next round to Juice Robinson. Another surprising result, because I thought then Elgin was going to win, because Juice is like an up-and-comer and he's younger and everyone loves him, but he still doesn't win all that often. But no, Juice won, Elgin put him over. Both matches were great, but especially that Ishii one. So Michael Elgin, another newcomer to the list. I can't believe I've included so many newbies. AJ Styles is leading the new crop. The list's being taken into the future, guys. This is it. strap yourselves in. Number 4, you know when you're at a party but you don't know that many people at the party, and then someone arrives late to the party and everyone goes, hey, this guy's here, woo, and you've never seen them before in your life and you're like, why does everyone love them so much? What's going on? And then, you know, you slowly learn why they're so popular. They might be really cool or really friendly or whatever. This is kind of what happened at WXW in the big title match, which was originally going to be Walter versus Bad Bones, and then Walter announced before the match, look, we've got a third entrant. It's going to be a triple threat match. And it was a man who I'd not known much about prior to this, called Ilya Dragunov. Dragunov isn't a really fun-loving guy or really cool, like in that party analogy. He's just crazy. He's just a psychotic individual, but he's a babyface and everyone loves him. He is a Russian wrestler who comes out and the intensity is like dripping from him. His facial expressions are the picture of Chosen. Look at him. Whoa. Now, I didn't know much about why the crowd went so wild when he came out, but it was explained to me by my good friend Ollie Sandler. Check him out on Twitter. The Ringside Perspective is his company name. He's a fantastic ringside photographer, the best in the UK, in my humble opinion, because he's my mate. But he is really good. And he explained to me that Dragunov, the story was that he won the WXW tournament last year and everyone loved it. Then he tried to win the belt and he couldn't, and he retired, but it wasn't a real retirement. It was one of them kayfabe worky retirements, and he came back this week and the response was staggering. Botchamania Matthew went and he said that it was one of the best pops he's ever experienced live, up there with when the Hardy Boys came back at WrestleMania last year. And then Dragunov proceeded to wrestle a fantastic match against Bones and Walter, which is why they got honourable mentions, and he won, he did it, he won the WXW Championship for the first time, and everyone, it was just one of those big moments in wrestling where there's a happy ending and everyone's really jubilant, and it looked lovely and great, and I wish I'd been there. Then the following night, Absolute Andy won the tournament and everyone went, oh, boo. But swings and roundabouts, I guess. Swings and roundabouts. Number 3, a man who was once a Wrestler of the Week previously on Another Week, Timothy Thatcher, a member of Ringkampf, an American like David Starr who's really found a home in Germany as a big, popular guy. Timothy Thatcher is vicious and brutal, and I thought he was going to win the tournament. He was my pick beforehand. He only made it to the semi-finals, but every match he wrestled in was superb, and then when he got knocked out, he was distraught. He was really sad. He competed in a tag match alongside Walter as well. And then when all was said and done and all his matches were finished and the crowd were pouring their adulation onto him, Thatcher stood in the ring and said, Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye in German. And everyone's thinking, is he leaving WXW? And there was a real sense of heartbreak and sadness. And I imagine this will lead to like one final farewell match, I suppose, if he is leaving. Or if he's not leaving, you know, he'll just carry on and keep wrestling. But Matthew explained to me that he's not a big promo guy, but this was his best promo. It was simple, but really heartfelt and emotional as well. He also won the Ambition Shoot Style tournament, which takes place around the same sort of 3 days as the tournament in like the morning or the afternoon of one of the main days. It's just a mini little shoot style tournament going on within the bigger tournament. And Thatcher won that. He won the shoot style tournament, and all those matches, although short, were very entertaining. You can only win by knockout or submission, and it was very unique, and I enjoyed it. I wouldn't want a big event based around that, but just for a little sneaky side quest next to the main tournament, I really enjoyed it, and Thatcher won that as well. Wrestled a hell of a lot of matches, fully deserving of his high place this week. Number 2, Kota Ibushi. Ibushi is one of the key figures in the wrestling landscape right now, on a global scale. He's obviously got that big storyline with Omega and the rest of the Bullet Club going on. He's also still killing it in the singles division as well. He was a competitor in the New Japan Cup this week, and he won a wonderful first round match to Yoshihashi, one of the less heralded New Japan stars, I guess. Yoshihashi is a member of the Chaos stable and is probably the least popular one. He's just never been invested that much in terms of character or storyline, or he's just someone who comes out and has good matches, but the crowd never buy into him as much as they do the big popular guys like Naito and Okada and Omega. But he had a match with Ibushi. Ibushi at one point did a balcony dive because he's Ibushi and he does what he wants. He won that match really good and progressed to the next round against Zack Sabre Jr. That match was phenomenal, probably the best match of this week. Ibushi, to my surprise, lost the match, and I thought Ibushi was going to win the New Japan Cup because of how invested everyone is in his storyline at the moment, but no, he didn't like lose the match by tapping out to Zack Sabre Jr. The referee just stopped it because his arm was being bent at such a severe angle. It was one of those nice little unique finishes that when it works correctly, really elevates the ending of the match. Ibushi, I think, could win Wrestlers of the Week by the end of the year, depending on what he does, because it took him a while to get on the list, but he's really been picking up points at quite an astonishing rate recently. So well done, Ibushi. 9 more points to you. Get up that league table. Come on, get up there. Drink the beer. And number 1, and the second ever 2-time winner of Wrestlers of the Week. Kenny Omega's won it 2 times and is the Snow Globe champion as well. And as an aside, I will be awarding, I think, the Snow Globe to whoever next pins Omega. It's like a title belt, guys. Very exciting. That's so sad. I've made up my own little title on Wrestlers of the Week called the Snow Globe. My Wrestler of the Week this week is Zack Sabre Jr. This was, I think, probably, in terms of a global impact, Zack's biggest week of his career ever, apart from maybe the Cruiserweight Classic. But he didn't win the Cruiserweight Classic. He got knocked out in the semi-finals. He was not only having great matches this week, he was winning them against bigger guys, more popular guys in New Japan. He had his first round match of the New Japan Cup against Tetsuya Naito, who's been on a slight downward spiral ever since losing to Kazuchika Okada in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom. That continued here. Zack Sabre Jr. tortured him, and the final submission he locked him in. He had like all 4 of his limbs somehow, and Naito had to give up. He had to submit. Then Zack progressed to the next round in that match I've just talked about against Ibushi. And this is one of my favourite Zack Sabre Jr. matches, that I've ever seen. I think my favourite was a match he had against Ciampa in Progress, but this is right up there because Zack dominated the match in a way that not many people expected because Ibushi's such a dynamite offensive wrestler. But instead, Zack really ground him down, but in an entertaining way. It wasn't in a boring way, it wasn't with rest holds, it was with logical, exciting submission holds, and eventually, as I mentioned, didn't like submit him, just forced the referee to stop the match. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it, and I know that a lot of people are like, you're biased against Ospreay, and now they're going to be like, you're biased against Zack Sabre Jr. He's fully deserving of his 10 points. Go and watch those matches, and excitingly, it's propelled him up to second in the table. I think he's only 7 points behind Ospreay now, and then behind him it's Gargano. It's getting a bit tense at the top. I love it. I love Wrestlers of the Week. I love stats. I love numbers. Oh. So if we take a look at the league table, you will now see, yes, as I mentioned, the top 2 are Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr. You'll also notice that a lot of newcomers this week aren't there in the upper reaches of the table because we've reached that stage in the year where you've got to have more than one good performance now to get into those upper echelons. Consistency is really being rewarded, and I enjoy that. I like a bit of consistency, and that sly Roderick Strong, bless him, didn't make it this week, but I suspect that he'll be stealing some little points here and there in the forthcoming weeks. Thank you very much for watching one of the strongest weeks I can remember in Wrestlers of the Week history. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter at JackTheJobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic, and if you want to, you can check out our Patreon as well, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, as always, guys, you know this by now, guys, come on guys, you know this, guys, to join us.